What if I told you some of horror's most infamous monsters actually saved the day? Not because they grew a conscience or found redemption, but because something even worse showed up. Today, we're looking at the rare moments when horror's worst villains turned into humanity's most uncomfortable heroes. From slashers to sadistic masterminds, these villains didn't stop being monsters. They just happened to be the right monster at the right time. And honestly, that might be even more terrifying. 1. Freddy vs. Jason, 2003. On paper, Freddy vs. Jason is pure fan service. 2 slasher icons, 1 body count, no rules. Freddy Krueger is a sadistic dream demon who feeds on fear, and Jason Voorhees is a walking machete with abandonment issues. But somehow, in one of the strangest twists in horror, Jason ends up being the only thing standing between Springwood and total annihilation, and he doesn't even realize it. Freddy's entire comeback plan hinges on control. The adults of Springwood erased him, institutionalized the kids who remembered, pumped them full of Hypnosil, and effectively starved him. No fear means no Freddy. So he resurrects Jason and weaponizes him, sending him to Elm Street to slaughter teens so the town will start whispering his name again. It works, and fear spreads. Freddy grows stronger and starts killing in dreams again. The comeback tour is officially underway. But here's the flaw. Freddy assumes Jason is a pawn, a blunt instrument he can put back in the toolbox once the job is done. Jason doesn't do nuance. He doesn't leave survivors to spiral in trauma. He doesn't savor psychological torment. He kills fast, loud, and indiscriminately, including potential dream victims Freddy needs alive. Every body Jason drops in the real world is one less mind Freddy can invade. When Freddy tries to reclaim the spotlight, Jason doesn't step aside. He pushes back. The final battle at Camp Crystal Lake isn't just spectacle, it's Freddy losing control of his own scheme. Once Freddy is dragged into reality, he loses his greatest advantage. When Jason punches through his chest and ultimately impales him, he isn't performing a noble sacrifice. He's rejecting manipulation, and that rejection is exactly what saves the survivors. Without Jason turning on him, Freddy would have regained full strength and terrorized Springwood indefinitely. Jason didn't choose heroism. He chose dominance. In doing so, he accidentally became humanity's most brutal bodyguard. 2. Saw 2, 2005. If Jason saved the day by refusing to be controlled, Saw 2 asks a much darker question. What if the villain thinks she's saving you? By the second film, John Kramer isn't just a serial killer, he's a dying philosopher with a god complex. He claims he doesn't murder people, he rehabilitates them. His traps are therapy sessions with blood loss. This time, he orchestrates a house filled with nerve gas and 8 trapped victims, including Detective Matthews' son, Daniel. The clock is ticking, antidotes are hidden, and the rules are simple. Appreciate your life or lose it. Meanwhile, Eric sits across from John in a warehouse, being told that if he just follows the rules, his son will be safe. Of course, Eric doesn't follow the rules because nobody ever does. Inside the house, chaos erupts. Victims panic, alliances fracture, and Xavier starts killing people to get the combination numbers tattooed on the back of their necks. It's brutal, selfish survival. Woven into that chaos is Amanda, the franchise's original survivor. She crawled out of the reverse bear trap in the first film, reborn and disturbingly loyal to Jigsaw's ideology. Here's where the reverse betrayal gets uncomfortable. Amanda isn't just another victim scrambling for an antidote, she's guiding the game. She endures the needle pit, manipulates the group, and steers Daniel toward survival. Then, we learn the footage was pre-recorded. The game was already over, and Daniel was safe in a vault the entire time. Amanda didn't save everyone. Far from it. But she did ensure Daniel survived. She carried out John's design perfectly. In her mind, she isn't a villain. She's proof the system works. She believes pain creates gratitude and terror builds character. So when she locks Eric in that bathroom at the end, sealing the door with chilling calm, she thinks she's continuing a legacy of helping. And that's the disturbing core of it. Is it redemption if you think you're saving people by torturing them? Or is it just evil wearing a self-help slogan? 3. The Collection, 2012. If Saw 2 gave us a villain who thinks she's helping, The Collection flips the script entirely. This time, the morally shady guy steps up and saves everyone. Arkin O'Brien was never meant to be a hero. In the first film, he was a desperate ex-con breaking into a house to steal a gem to pay off his debts. He wasn't protecting anyone but himself. He just got unlucky and crossed paths with the Collector, a methodical, insect-obsessed killer who turns entire buildings into death machines. By the time the collection opens, Arkin is literally boxed up like a trophy, proof that the monster won last time. When he's accidentally released at a party, chaos erupts. Traps shred through dozens of people in seconds. The Collector grabs Elena and disappears. Arkin escapes with a broken arm and a clean exit. This is where redemption starts because Arkin doesn't have to go back. He learns his family is safe and police are involved. The smart and selfish move would be to vanish. Instead, he agrees to guide mercenaries to the Collector's lair. At first, it's for a deal to wipe his criminal record, but once they reach the abandoned hotel rigged with traps, money stops mattering. He knows this monster, how he thinks, and more importantly, what happens to the people who get left behind. When the mercenaries start dropping, Arkin becomes the only person capable of navigating the nightmare. He deliberately draws police attention. He endures pain. He re-breaks his own arm to escape a trap and frees Elena. While trained soldiers panic and die, the former thief becomes the strategist. He adapts faster than the man who built the maze. When Arkin finally overpowers the Collector and sets the building ablaze, he doesn't just escape, he ends the cycle. He tracks down the killer himself and locks him inside a trunk, reversing the power dynamic completely. Arkin began this franchise thinking only about survival. In the sequel, he walks back into the monster's nest and dismantles it. Not because he's pure, not because he's innocent, but because he's the only one who's been there before and the only one brave enough to finish it. 4. Alien vs. Predator, 2004. From a desperate thief stepping up, we move to something even more unexpected. A trophy-hunting alien warlord who decides mid-hunt that maybe the human isn't the enemy. Let's be clear, the Predator is not a hero. In his own franchise, he's an elite extraterrestrial hunter who travels across galaxies collecting skulls like trophies. In this film, 3 young predators arrive in Antarctica for a rite of passage, a ceremonial hunt inside an ancient pyramid where humans are used as incubators to birth xenomorphs, the so-called ultimate prey. That's the setup. Humans aren't partners, they're bait. The team led by Lex Woods is lured underground, trapped as sacrificial hosts, and the slaughter begins. Aliens hatch, mercenaries die. It's a 3-way war, and humanity is very clearly the weakest faction. Then, everything shifts. 2 of the predators are killed, leaving Scar as the last hunter standing. He watches Lex survive, sees her adapt, and instead of killing her, he makes a choice that completely reframes the dynamic. He hands her a spear and shield from xenomorph remains. The hunter becomes an ally, not because he suddenly cares about humanity, but because he recognizes a worthy warrior. More importantly, he understands the bigger threat. If the xenomorph queen escapes to the surface, the hunt becomes an infestation. This isn't sport anymore, it's survival. That's the reverse betrayal. The Predator shifts from apex threat to humanity's last line of defense. He fights beside Lex. He marks her as an equal. He detonates the pyramid to contain the outbreak. In the final battle, he and Lex chain the alien queen and drag her into the abyss, preventing a global catastrophe. Scar dies in the process, impaled, mortally wounded, but not before ensuring the infestation ends there. He didn't save humanity out of compassion. He saved the hunt. He saved balance. Without him, the xenomorph queen reaches the surface, and that's extinction-level horror. Sometimes the only thing that can stop the ultimate predator is a predator with standards. 5. Underworld, 2003. From alien hunters forming uneasy alliances, we shift to a blood-soaked civil war where the real villain was hiding in plain sight. Underworld doesn't just give us monsters fighting monsters, it gives us a protagonist who starts on the wrong side of history. Selene begins this film as a death dealer, an elite vampire assassin who has spent centuries exterminating lichens with cold precision. To her, werewolves aren't misunderstood, they're vermin. She believes the war is justified and her coven is righteous. Most importantly, she believes Victor, the elder who turned her after her family was slaughtered by Lycans, is a savior. That belief fuels everything. Every bullet she fires, every Lycan she executes. From the Lycan's perspective, Celine isn't a hero, she's a nightmare, but then she starts asking questions. When she discovers the Lycans are hunting a human named Michael Corvin, she disobeys orders to investigate. That single act of defiance cracks the facade. She learns Lucian, the supposed dead Lycan leader, is alive. She uncovers that the Lycans were once slaves. That the war wasn't started by beasts, but by oppression. Then the truth detonates. Victor, her mentor and maker, murdered his own daughter for loving Lucian, slaughtered Celine's family himself, and manipulated her into becoming a weapon fueled by false vengeance. Celine wasn't protecting her people, she was enforcing a lie. That realization changes everything. In the final confrontation, Celine turns her blade not on the Lycans, but on Victor. She chooses to protect Michael, now a hybrid target of both species, and decapitates the very elder she once worshipped. In doing so, she dismantles the corrupt leadership perpetuating the war. She becomes a traitor to her own kind and a protector of the man both sides want dead. Celine doesn't save the day by defeating a monster. She saves it by realizing she's been fighting for one. Sometimes redemption doesn't start with heroism, it starts with admitting you've been on the wrong team all along. 6. Day of the Dead, 1985. In Day of the Dead, the character who ends up delivering justice is a zombie. By this point in George Romero's Apocalypse, civilization is essentially gone. A small group of scientists and soldiers are holed up in an underground missile bunker in Florida, desperately trying to figure out what comes next. The scientists want a cure. The soldiers want control. Leading those soldiers is Captain Rhodes, a man who proves quickly that the living can be far more dangerous than the dead. Rhodes rules through intimidation, threatens executions, and reminds the scientists that their survival depends on his patience. In a world already collapsing, he's determined to turn the bunker into a dictatorship. Meanwhile, one scientist, Dr. Logan, is running experiments that sound completely insane, trying to train zombies. Most of them are mindless, violent corpses. But one subject stands out: Bub. Unlike the others, Bub shows signs of memory and basic learning. He can hold objects. He recognizes music. He even attempts to salute like a soldier. The soldiers mock the idea that a zombie could be civilized, especially Rhodes, who sees the entire experiment as a dangerous waste of time. Then, Rhodes murders Logan, and that's when the most ironic moment in the entire film unfolds. Bub discovers the body of the only human who treated him with patience instead of cruelty. For the first time, the zombie doesn't just react, he understands. Bub mourns, picks up a pistol, and when the bunker collapses into chaos as hordes of undead flood the compound, Bub finds Rhodes trying to escape the consequences of his own brutality. The zombie shoots him, then mockingly returns the salute Rhodes once demanded from others as the rest of the undead tear him apart. It's one of the sharpest pieces of commentary in horror. The zombie understood loyalty better than the humans did. Bub didn't save the day by curing the apocalypse, but he did remove the most dangerous man left in the bunker. 7. Don't Breathe. 2. 2021. Next, we move to one of the most uncomfortable reversals in modern horror, when a villain so disturbing suddenly becomes the only thing standing between a child and something even worse. The blind man from Don't Breathe was never meant to be sympathetic. In the first film, Norman Nordstrom was a terrifying antagonist, a reclusive veteran who kidnapped a woman, imprisoned her in his basement, and planned to force her to give him another child. He wasn't misunderstood. He wasn't morally gray. He was a monster hiding in a dark house. So, when Don't Breathe 2 begins with him quietly raising a young girl named Phoenix as his daughter, the entire premise already feels wrong, because we know exactly what he's capable of. Then the world reminds us that horror always has another layer. A gang tracks Phoenix down and brutally invades the house, revealing a twisted truth. They're her biological parents. Years earlier, Phoenix survived a meth lab explosion that killed her mother, or so she was told. In reality, the explosion didn't kill her. Norman found the unconscious child in the wreckage and took her, raising her as a replacement for the daughter he lost. It's kidnapping disguised as parenting, but the gang didn't come back out of love. Phoenix's real mother is dying from chemical damage caused by that explosion, and they plan to harvest Phoenix's organs to save her. No anesthesia, no mercy, just a child fully awake while they cut out her heart. Suddenly, the worst man in the room isn't Norman. What follows is a brutal slasher-style rescue mission. Norman hunts the gang through darkness, picking them off one by one with the same terrifying efficiency that once made him the villain. Now that violence is pointed at people who are arguably more monstrous. He shuts down the surgery, kills the kidnappers, and stops the operation before it can begin. In the end, Norman even confesses his past crimes before sending Phoenix away to live a better life without him. That's what makes the whole thing so morally strange. A man who once embodied pure horror becomes the only person capable of stopping something even worse. He saves the day, but rooting for him still feels deeply, deeply wrong. 8. The Fly, 1986. David Cronenberg's The Fly isn't a story about a killer turning good. It's about a good man slowly realizing he's becoming something horrifying. Seth Brundle begins the film as an eccentric but brilliant scientist who invents teleportation technology and invites journalist Ronnie to document his breakthrough. At first, the discovery feels miraculous. Objects can be transported instantly. The future seems limitless. But when Seth impulsively tests the machine on himself, he makes one small mistake. A housefly slips into the telepod with him. The computer, unable to distinguish between the two life forms, merges their DNA at the molecular level. At first, the transformation feels like an upgrade. Seth becomes stronger, faster, more energetic. He believes the machine purified him, but the changes keep coming. Strange hair grows from his skin. His teeth and fingernails fall out. His personality shifts from curious to aggressive, then to something disturbingly animalistic. Eventually, the truth becomes undeniable. Seth Brundle is dissolving piece by piece while something else takes his place. He names the creature he's becoming Brundlefly. What makes this tragedy different from the other entries on this list is that Seth never stops understanding what's happening. Even as his body mutates beyond recognition, fragments of his humanity remain. He recognizes that he's losing control, that his instincts are becoming predatory, and that the person Ronnie fell in love with is disappearing. In the film's final moments, after a failed attempt to fuse himself with Ronnie and their unborn child, the transformation becomes complete. Brundlefly emerges, barely recognizable as human. Then something remarkable happens. The creature drags itself toward Ronnie. In that moment, it doesn't attack. It asks for mercy. Seth can't save the world or undo the experiment, but he can stop the suffering and the danger he's becoming to everyone else. In the quietest, most heartbreaking reversal on this list, the monster saves the day by choosing to die as a man. Horror loves to remind us that monsters are terrifying, but sometimes they're also necessary. Whether it's Jason stopping Freddy's comeback, a predator teaming up with a human, or a dying scientist choosing mercy over madness, these moments prove that even the worst villains can end up saving the day, intentionally or not. Of course, doing one good thing doesn't erase a legacy of horror. It just makes the story a lot more complicated. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which horror villain you think had the most unexpected redemption, and if there are any we missed. I'd love to hear your picks.